Is it a playing field? Is it a mirror? Is it a therapist's couch? Is it a lab bench? Or is it a stage? Well, in a way, it's all of those things because it's just this, a blank piece of paper. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Alison, I come to TEDx for groundbreaking innovation and cutting-edge technology. It's not groundbreaking or cutting-edge. But I'm here to tell you it is. Because everything we are learning about how we function best as humans in a complex world is bringing us back to this. You and a blank piece of paper getting it together. I want to talk to you about writing. But not writing as you might usually think about it. And certainly not writing as I used to think about it. Because you see, I am a publisher. And so for most of my life, the page has been always and only a stage, a place to perform, to communicate an idea with flair and impact. And I've spent most of my career helping other people to do that too. And I wasn't wrong exactly, but I was only seeing a small part of the picture. For me, it all changed about 6 years ago when I was a fairly new entrepreneur, just left corporate, set up my own business, and one night, in the middle of a particularly precarious cash flow situation, I woke up in the small hours in a panic. At 3 in the morning, a cash flow challenge feels like the start of the collapse of your life. My heart was racing, my throat was tight. If I had a single coherent thought, it was simply this: what have I done? And in that state of wordless panic, doing nothing was impossible, so I did what occurred to me. I picked up a pen and a piece of paper, and I started to write. It was a hot mess. It was basically a howl on paper. But then I started to write about what I was experiencing in my body, exactly where I was feeling the panic. And as I wrote, I noticed my state changing. My breathing started to slow down, and my racing thoughts, they slowed down to the pace of the pen on the page. And I started to feel calmer and more grounded. And quite honestly, if that had been the end of it, that would have been a great result. But as I continued to write, something even more remarkable happened. I had an idea. I found myself writing, I wonder if, and within just a few minutes, I had pretty much completely sketched out an idea for a new program, which I launched the next week and which went a long way towards resolving the cash flow situation. In just a few minutes, that raw, messy writing had allowed me to turn my anxiety around and access my own resourcefulness. And now I was asking, what just happened? And what had happened was that I had accidentally discovered what I now call exploratory writing. Writing that's just for me, not for anybody else. Writing when I don't know what it is I want to say. It started by just getting my thoughts onto paper, but in the process it unlocked ideas and insights I hadn't seen before. It helped me make sense of the confusion, and it resourced me to deal with it more effectively. So over the next few weeks, I started experimenting with this kind of writing whenever I felt uncertain or anxious or just didn't know the answer to a question. And it worked every single time. It started to feel as though I had discovered the Hogwarts room of requirement. You know, it's always there when you need it. It always contains exactly what you need in the moment, and nobody seems to know it exists. Now, of course, I wasn't the first person to discover this kind of writing. Psychologists have been using writing therapy with their patients for decades, and creative writers have been using free writing to blast through writer's block for even longer. But I'm not in therapy, and I'm not a novelist, and so it took me nearly 50 years and far too many 3 in the morning moments before I discovered the everyday magic of pen and paper for solution finding, for sense making, for self-discovery. When you're writing for other people, the page is a stage. You can inform or influence or entertain, but you're visible and you're vulnerable. When you're writing for yourself, it's a completely different story. When you're writing for yourself, the page is your safe space. So it can be a mirror helping you discover more about yourself. It can be a therapist's couch where you're free to express and explore your emotions. It can be a rehearsal room where you can try out ideas that might be great one day, but they're pretty flaky right now. It could be a lab bench where you run thought experiments. It could be a courtroom where you argue with yourself. It can be a playground where you hang upside down and have fun. When you're writing for other people, you start with a pretty good idea of what it is you want to say. But when you're writing for yourself, you can start a sentence even if you have no idea where it's going to go. And who knows where that could take you. So now you know what exploratory writing is. How do you do it? Well, you can't really do it wrong, and that is one of the best things about this. But when I'm doing it myself, when I'm teaching other people how to do it, we start with the scruffiest pad of paper I can lay my hands on. Now, you might have a really beautiful notebook at home for journaling in, and that's great. You might write down 3 things that you're grateful for each day. You might even keep a diary, which one day you will read back. Maybe you'll even publish it. But the very fact that you're writing in a pretty notebook makes you want to write pretty things. It's like your inner English teacher is leaning over your shoulder going, "Oh, don't spoil that lovely book. Write something nice." I don't know about you, I've got a couple of notebooks at home that are just too beautiful. I will never write in them. Real exploratory writing doesn't happen in pretty notebooks. It's raw, it can be ugly, it's absolutely honest, and you need to know before you start, nobody else is ever going to read this. And I found the best way to do that is with simply a big block of lined, recycled A4 paper. It's cheap, it's unintimidating, it's unself-conscious, and it engages both my brain and my body in a way that a keyboard and monitor could only dream about. So you've got your scruffy pad of paper. What you need next is a prompt. Any old prompt, really, because this is just a jumping off point, and it could be miles away from where you land. But if you ask yourself an open question, you unlock one of the most extraordinary superpowers of the human brain: instinctive elaboration. If I ask you, what colour socks are you wearing? Just for a second, you won't be able to listen to me because that question's hijacked your brain. And you're thinking about your socks and you're shouting in your head, "They're purple! Oh, I'm commando, I'm not wearing any." You have to think what your prompt you're going to use when it comes to exploratory writing. You could ask yourself, why am I so disorganized? And you're going to come up with lots of answers, but they're all going to be more or less unhelpful. But if you ask, what's one thing I could do today to be more organized? Then you're going to get somewhere. A good prompt lines your brain up and unleashes it in the direction that you want to travel. So you have your scruffy pad of paper and you have your prompt. Now comes the magic. You set a timer and you write without stopping until it goes off. You keep writing, even if you have nothing to say, because it's the act of writing that draws out the ideas, the insights, that moves your thinking forwards. How long do you write for? Well, it's entirely up to you. I follow Gilly Bolton, who literally wrote the book on reflective practice. I write for 6 minutes, 1/10 of an hour. I found that 6 minutes is about as long as I can keep up a non-stop writing sprint without either my energy or my hand falling off. But however long you write for, the first couple of minutes are always rubbish. And I don't know any way around this. You have to dig through a lot of dirt before you hit the gold. And it's going to be messy. There's going to be a lot of whinging, repetition, and variations on, I have nothing to say. But you will know when you hit the gold. A new neural pathway will light up in your brain, and you'll feel a shock of recognition and significance in your body. You'll almost certainly breathe differently. You might move position. If somebody was watching you, they would see it happen. And when the timer goes off, you read back over what you've written, and you pick out the gold. Maybe 2 or 3 nuggets if you're lucky, and you keep them safe. Maybe in that beautiful journal. Maybe on your to-do list. Maybe just as a prompt for tomorrow's writing session. And the rest you rip up and you throw it in the recycle bin because it has done its job. The science shows us that what I discovered to be true for me at 3 in the morning is true for pretty much all of us, all the time. A regular exploratory writing practice, daily ideally, is one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves. It improves our well-being and our mood. It boosts our confidence, our creativity, and our cognitive performance. It increases our capacity for empathy, for other people and for ourselves. It helps us focus. It even helps us sleep better and boosts our immune system. In an age where our attention is constantly under siege, where anxiety can just be overwhelming, and where we spend so much time online, it's a radical act of self-care. And in a world in which we spend so much time as consumers, it's about carving out just a few minutes each day to become creators. And it's essentially free. All you need is 6 minutes, a pen or pencil, and a blank piece of paper. And what you turn that piece of paper into is entirely up to you. Thank you.